We'll go ahead and just start taking questions if you're ready. If you guys will all just use the raise hand feature and Ben, go ahead.
Hey, Robin. How have you seen your team react to, an emotional few days of Sunday and then the turnaround and realizing what the next step was and preparing for that?
Yeah. Hey, Ben. I tell you what, I think we were all stunned. I think in a situation like that, you have a watch party and you're on the bubble and you feel like looking at some of those resumes, you're right there in the mix. And so, there's a chance that you might not make it. But I think all of our hopes were pretty high. We had a really good week of practice leading up to Sunday. And it was, I think we're all just stunned. And, there wasn't a lot of conversation afterwards. I said emotions are high and, tonight we need to exhale and kind of recenter ourselves and got to come back tomorrow and get to work. And I thought our girls really handled it well. I felt like we came back and, practice started maybe a little bit slow, but it really picked up quickly. And I feel like we've had a couple really solid days of practice, as well as the week leading up to selection shows. So I feel really good about, the last 7 days or how many ever days that we've been practicing, but definitely disappointed. But, it is what it is. And we've got to embrace it. We can't play the victim. We got to take some ownership and we have an opportunity in front of us and let's go make the most of it. So that's kind of where our mindset is.
Chris?
Hey, Robin, just kind of building off a little bit what you just said, what were some of the conversations you've had since when you just talk about the NIT and the opportunity that's in front of you?
We haven't done a lot of talking, to be honest with you. I just said, I'm approaching this as an opportunity for us to, one game at a time. And we're in postseason. It's not the postseason that we would have wanted, but this is where we're at. And so we've got to be able to embrace it. And, certainly, and, March doesn't care about records. March doesn't care about a lot of things. You better bring it. You better be the tougher team, the more physical team, the more aggressive team. And we've got to control what we can control. And again, I felt like the last 7-8 days of practice, it feels more like our team from November and December. And so, we've got everybody out there, everybody's healthy. Everyone's been working really, really hard. And so that's been super encouraging, but certainly you'd like to make a run at this WNIT, but the fact of the matter is everybody in the field wants to make a run. And so it's really important that you take it one game at a time, one possession at a time. I'm really thankful that we get a chance to host. I think playing at Mizzou Arena is big for us. So I appreciate the administration and the support that we've gotten from the community and, the tickets that we've sold so far. I haven't got an actual number, but, I think that's huge for us. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity.
Nat?
Hey, Robin, is there any thinking on your end maybe that, this is an opportunity for you guys to kind of make that statement in the postseason, having a kind of run in the WNIT with not getting the bid? Obviously, you guys would have preferred.
Yeah, well, one thing I did mention to the team, and you'll have to fact check me on this, but I think 3 of the last 4 teams to win the WNIT are now first and second round hosts. And so I do think there's a huge opportunity that's in front of us. And again, we know that I've got a lot. We start with Drake. Drake's a very strong mid-major team. I'm very familiar with them. And none of it's easy. These teams, there's a handful of these teams that were right there to make the NCAAs too. And so it's going to be a very competitive field. Again, March records go out the window. But I do think there's an opportunity there for sure. And when you look at, the history of who's won over the last couple of years, I think it really can set you up for, an opportunity in that next season.
Isla?
Hey, Robin, I hope you're doing well. I mean, you brought up a point that I was going to ask about how, a lot of those teams that have won it are now hosting. In terms of what you mentioned with that growth and development, How are you approaching this opportunity in that regard? And are there, certain areas that you want to see the team make strides in with this, postseason experience?
I just not taking it for granted. We have an opportunity in front of us. And like I said, I feel like our last handful of practices, it really has had they've really worked really hard. It's got that same vibe from, November and December. And there's been really great chemistry on the court, and the girls have been really working hard. So I'm proud of it. The season, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We had some really big highs, and we had some tough lows, and some challenges in between. But the resiliency of this group, I think, has been pretty special, and I really like where our team's at right now.
Chris?
Yeah, when you talk about some of the lows, especially after losing the SEC tournament, what was the week like after that, kind of moving on from that loss and then kind of moving into the last week and then coming to today?
Yeah, well, you got to learn from everything, and in every experience we have, it's either, you got to have the mindset that you're winning or you're learning from it. And if you can learn from it, it can help you for sure down the road. And, there wasn't obviously very disappointed. That was but we took, what did we take? We took, I think, at least 4 days off after the SEC tournament, which I thought was huge. I think it was really, really important to just kind of everybody to get away, press the reset button, and come back and get after it. And honestly, I was very pleased with the way they came back. I think the first day we practiced was on Tuesday. So we would have taken Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. And I just felt like they handled it really well. Obviously very disappointed. We're all competitors. We want to win. We want to win at a high level. They've been working their tails off over the last several months. And, we had our goal was definitely to get to that NCAA tournament. And it's a hard place to get to. It's a real hard place to get to. And we feel like we had some opportunities that slipped away from us. And, that's never very fun to sit on, but you've got to be able to embrace it, and you got to get better from it. And I think, again, I was just really pleased with the way we came back on Tuesday and really got after it. Collectively, everybody from top to bottom. I thought, we had great focus, great energy, great attention to detail. And so, I think as you go through the SEC season, you kind of, it becomes a routine in regards to Mondays are usually off. You get 1 day a week to really practice hard and get after it, which is Tuesday. Wednesday's the day before a game. Thursday, you have a game. Friday's recovery. Saturday, you game prep. Sunday, you play. And then you go through the cycle again and again and again. And so to be able to get away for 4 days was huge. And then to be able to really put back-to-back practices together and, and work on some things and hopefully clean some things up, I thought was huge for us.
Dave?
Hey, Robin, 2 questions quick. Do you expect to have everybody available Thursday? And when you look at resume and analyze, and when you kind of analyze resume after not making it, did you feel like it was just one win maybe would have been the difference in SEC play?
Okay, so the first question was everyone going to be available?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Sorry, I just got a call from Drake. Yes, well, everybody but Sky and Nisi, who Nisi hasn't dressed all season long. So everybody else, full go as practice consistently over the last 7, 8, 9 practices, whatever we've had. So yes, everybody will be full go. When I look at the resume, I'll be honest with you, Dave, it's really hard to I'm anxious to talk to some people, when the time's right about what that resume was missing. And again, I know that we were right there on the cusp, and one more win definitely, I think, helps you a lot. I haven't talked to a coach yet that completely understands the net and how they put that together. And, you talk about quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins, and, that's a thing on the men's side. It's not something they talk a lot about on the women's side. when you look at strength of schedule, strength of conference, who beat who, top 25 teams, there's just a couple teams in there that are head scratchers that make it really hard to understand maybe what we're missing compared to a couple of those resumes. But at the end of the day, we put our resume in the hands of a committee that I don't doubt is a very hard and tedious job. And so, I appreciate what that committee does, and I know it's a hard job. But bottom line is you've got to control your own destiny. And do we do that by winning one or two more games? We had a couple of games that went down to a one possession game. I don't think we necessarily had any bad losses. The teams that we lost to are all in the tournament, except for Mississippi State. And I think in that game, that was kind of lightning in a bottle. Their worlds got rocked a little bit with Rakia leaving, and then, they just band together, and that was on the road. So I don't even know if they'd consider that a bad loss, but, so I don't know that we had a bad loss, but I do think one or two more wins. You look at that down the stretch at Baylor, you look at LSU, you lose to Arkansas 3 times. If you could have gotten one of the 3, I think your resume looks a little bit different, and you're probably in. And those are hard facts to face, but it's the reality of it. And we've got to. And I also think what hurt us was our game against Missouri State. We laid an egg. And no disrespect to Missouri State. I mean, they've done a tremendous job. They've got a great team, great coach. They're in the NCAA tournament, but to lose the way we did, I think after that Baylor loss, we didn't handle it very well. There was some devastation. We were right there. We were disappointed, and that bounce back, that resiliency to go in and compete at the level we're capable of. We didn't do it in Springfield. And I think that margin of loss probably hurt us too, but I'm anxious to dive into that. I think, there'll be a time and place to do that. It doesn't change anything now. So we've got to put all of our focus and all hands on deck for the task at hand.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you feel like preparations have been going for Drake, and immediately what kind of stands out to you about that team?
Yeah, just super blue. We played them a couple years ago in the NCAA tournament. We won by 1 in overtime. And, they've got different personnel, but they play very similar. You're going to see some man defense. You're going to see some matchup zone defense. And probably their strength is their ability to really spread you out offensively. All players will shoot the 3. They do a very good job moving without the ball. I think they're high basketball IQ, very fundamentally sound. In their physical, and they're tough. I mean, they're just hard-nosed players. They've got a great program that's got a really strong history. And so, we know it's going to be a challenge, and we know that, again, it's survive and advance. And so we've got to be able to go out there for 40 minutes and really compete at a high level on both ends of the court.
Lila?
Robin, you mentioned, kind of how men's and women's teams are evaluated a bit differently, if those quad wins and kind of the net and all that. What would you kind of like to see change there in terms of transparency? And I guess just what are your thoughts on the steps that the NCAA has taken after that inequity study and everything that happened with the women's tournament conditions last year?
Yeah, I think, first thing is awareness. And I think there's, been some things that have been brought to the table. And I think there's conversations. And I think that's where it starts is being willing to listen and have conversations. And so I think that's been huge. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks and what that looks like. In regards to the committee, I think there's a lot of factors that they look at. There's probably 10 to 12 things that are on their board. And I think everybody, it's not tiered, it's not net, strength of schedule, strength of conference. I think you've got 7 to 11 committee members in that room that might prioritize things differently to what's important to them. I went through one of those mock experiences, and it was really insightful. I mean, I really respect and appreciate the time and energy that committee puts into what they do. I don't think it's an easy job at all. And so I appreciated that opportunity that was a couple of years ago, but I just think, maybe being able to narrow down kind of what are the key factors. And for me personally, and I know some other coaches in this league too, really being able to wrap our head around what you're looking at with that net, what truly goes into that net. And that will help us with our non-conference scheduling. And so I think we all have an idea, but I've never really been able to see it broken down specifically. And that's what we've talked about as SEC coaches at our spring meetings, being able to bring somebody in that can really dive deeper into that and peel back the layers. I think that's going to be really, really important. You see some wins and some losses, and sometimes the net seems to change drastically, and sometimes it doesn't change or move the needle much at all. And so I think all of us just wrapping our arms around that a little bit better and having a better understanding of it would be huge.
Chris?
Just really quick about recruiting and stuff too. When you look at Drake, I know they have a Jefferson City kid. They have other ties to MidMissouri too. And just curious from your point of view, when it comes to these Missouri Valley Conference teams and other teams like Kansas State, how important is it to kind of make sure that you own this area, the MidMissouri part of recruiting, as you kind of forge ahead and kind of create your future too?
Yeah, I think I've always said it from day one, you want to get the best players in the state and you want to build around that. I think there's a lot of factors that go into recruiting that people just, it's not just about recruiting a kid. Some players want to get away from home, they want the college experience. Some people want to stay close. And sometimes it's just positional needs too. You might be a super talented player, but scholarship availability for those positions sometimes becomes a factor in that decision as well. But I do think the transfer portal has changed everything about college basketball. I haven't seen the number over the last week or so, but I know it's just there's a lot of people in there, and it's ever evolving and a lot of moving parts. And so I think to always try and stay a step ahead is really important as a basketball coach. But I also think you want to, your focus has to be on those relationships with your current players. But bottom line is every school in the country is having, not every school, but it's just a lot different when you don't have to go and sit for a year and you can play immediately. And so a lot of it depends upon that too. Who's in the portal, what's your high school kids look like. I've always been a big believer, and there's such value in having a player in your program for 4 years. I think that is huge. I think that's where you get traditions, and I think traditions are really important. But it's certainly evolving right now, and I think it's changed the complex of what we do. It's changed it quite a bit. But I think with recruiting, absolutely, you want to keep the best players in state. Every team in the country wants to do that. But with that being said, there's only 15 scholarships, and what positions do you need in what year, and how do you balance out those classes? Those are some things too that, I think become really important, that you don't get too heavy in a certain class and 1 year you lose 7 players. And, so just to keep that balance is important as well.
Nate?
Hey, Coach, speaking of those young players that you're getting, how important do you think it is for Izzy and Kaya to get these extra games in the postseason in their freshman seasons?
Yeah, I think everybody looks at postseason a little bit differently, especially when you're in the WNIT. I think some, coaches kind of gear it towards that returning group for that next season. And so I think there's a different mindset for everyone. But my focus is on our team this year and finishing out this season on a really strong note. And so, that's how I view postseason. I don't move on to that next year. We're in this season, and I want to focus on, like I said, first things first, and that's finishing in this season on a really strong note. So I think that experience for all of our players. I think Kaya's seen some minutes throughout the course of the season. I think being a freshman is really hard. I think same thing with Izzy. Unfortunately for Izzy, she went through about a month span where we weren't even able to get her on the court much because of COVID protocols and then having COVID and some of, so that made it really challenging too for her. But I think having this last week of practice where it wasn't 1 day a week and then game prep and then a recovery day, but to have 7 to 8 to 9 days where we just got a chance to get after it, roll up our sleeves and go to work, I think has been really good for our team.
Are there any other questions for Coach?
All right, I appreciate you guys hopping on. Have a good one.